from more than 40 countries who are doing so many things, which actually does this eventually. So we are relief workers, we are nurses, we are providing, mediating conflicts, we are also kind of addressing domestic violence, we are talking to policymakers, we are making the governors listen, and all of that eventually leads to peace and stability, because as you know, peace does not come with ending wars alone. And a bit of an experience I want to share actually about our work. So 2018, this is Afghanistan under the Republic government, and we were working to get women in the local governments. So as you have heard about the issue of participation. So what does that mean in local real action? So we got the government to get women in the governor positions and also deputy governor positions. And we were told, the security is so bad, the Taliban are doing suicide attacks every day, we cannot put women in those positions, especially a lot of political opponents told us. So what we women did, we very much pushed the president to come to give us a decree. We said, we'll make it happen at the provincial level, we have 34 provinces, we'll make it happen at the provincial level, just give us a decree, a presidential decree that we can sign. So eventually we got a decree and we got women into these deputy governor positions. So what happened was amazing. The government buildings that was very difficult for women to even enter because it was like all men, and women were not allowed to enter. And as one of the governors from one of the provinces told us, what do women have to do to come to the governor building anyways? And eventually, when these women became the deputy governors, and by 2021, when the Taliban took over, we had 23 of them, by the way. You would enter to the building, it would look much cleaner, by the way. At the same time, from the previous times that we had the governors, at the same time, you would see women going around. There's a female police with, standing there. There's a woman with her mic. She's a female journalist who is there to interview the deputy governor. There are other women who are at that building who have meetings, appointments coming up with the deputy governors. And we see that the number of women as administrators and as the director of the provincial departments, they have increased. So the girls' education kept getting better because of these women. And it's not just all by accident, but because these women make informed decisions to hire women in positions of, for example, government, administration, management, communication, you name it. And like, for example, you will hear the deputy governor talking in the local media, being interviewed by a female journalist, having a female police next to her saying, domestic violence is illegal in our laws and women should not be beaten up. This is something in a province where people have never heard in their lives. So this is Afghanistan 2019, 2020, and 2021, the Taliban, and this is exactly what we were doing inside Afghanistan. The US was busy doing the negotiations with the Taliban, which they excluded us. Every time we talked to them and asked them to include women into those conversations, we were told that, when we get, these are technical conversations. When we get to the issues of women's rights, we will talk to you. And those issues never came. And eventually, what happened? 2021, Afghanistan was handed over to the Taliban. And after 2021, it's 4 years that everything for women has been stopped. Going to school, going to work, gym, sports, anything that you can name it, journalism, all kinds of work, and even women cannot become doctors, lawyers, engineers, just name it. And then, when this happens, September 2021, and because we had this big network of women in Afghanistan, so we were like, okay, what do we do now? I remember having that Zoom call with over 175 women, many of these deputy governors that I just mentioned to you. And we talked to each other and we said, okay, do we give up? What do we do next? And these women were like, we cannot give up. No matter that the Taliban have created these restrictions, we would continue creating spaces for our daughters, because now these women have their own daughters. They have teenagers. They have girls who are going to secondary education, girls who are going to colleges, but all of that have stopped for women in Afghanistan. So December 2021, these women, many of them formerly who were engaged in the government as well as in the local communities, they were part of the peace councils that we had established locally, and they started turning their living rooms into classrooms. They started turning their guest rooms into meeting rooms. Right now, I work with 215 women who are community facilitators in each of 34 provinces. They are doing what we call self-help groups, where these women meet 3 times a week for 3 hours. Women who are victims of domestic abuse, women who are stuck into, for example, conflicts between 2 tribes, and then in Afghanistan we have a practice of giving away a woman to settle disputes, for example. And these groups that women have created, they have established alliances and allies with men, like a Malik. Malik is the village elder, or a mullah, or an imam of the mosque, or a leader of the mosque, so that they can prevent. The mother, for example, of a 12-year-old girl came to them just last week saying, my husband is selling my 12-year-old girl. These women, and 5 of them, created, a contact with the father and the brother of that girl and prevented that marriage. Similarly, for example, there's a self-help session where women are talking about their challenges. A woman comes up and shows her broken hand because she was beaten in a domestic violence case. And suddenly another woman said, oh, we have this group of nurses that can actually help. So that is how these women are mobilizing inside their communities. Because millions of women right now in Afghanistan, as you know, we don't hear from them, but these are the women who are not just passive victims sitting at home and waiting what to do next. These are the women who proactively take the initiatives, and they are making, spaces for other women, and they are more worried about their daughters. Because these are the girls who, for 20 years, they have seen and they have tasted freedom. They have had Facebook, they have had their cafes, they have been to book clubs, they have been, doing football games. These daughters are much more, their level of freedom, or the way they want to be free, is much, much different than their mothers that we used to work for the past 20 years. So the mothers are more worried about their daughters. That's why we see mothers even getting more active these days within our communities. But as you know, the Taliban have, I don't know which term can actually describe it, but we could call it gender apartheid. It's a system that says, if you're a woman, you should not exist, literally. And those are the rules and laws that they have actually, enacted. So I want to conclude with a couple of recommendations and requests from the Portuguese government, particularly, and colleagues here, that when you hear, or when you have an opportunity to talk about Afghanistan, just ask the question, where are the women? That simple question will actually, start the Pandora box. That you will hear what the women of Afghanistan, because that's what the world didn't ask when they were making deals with the Taliban, especially in the United States when they made that deal. I know that Portuguese government is thinking of candidacy, is having a candidacy for the Security Council. So hosting, the women peace builders, because yes, the men who have been part of the problem, they keep talking to the same men who have been, creating the problems, but also talk to the women who actually are not part of the problem but have a lot of solutions. And the women-led organizations, what we see on the ground, the only hope are the women-led organizations and those women-led initiatives that I just talked about, because they provide resources, they provide space, and they provide support to other women and to millions of women right now in Afghanistan. Thank you so much for your attention, and I hope that we would have these conversations more within the Portuguese Foreign Ministry. Thank you so much.